Hi everyone! Do you know exactly what food you have in your fridge or freezer? And do you know what use-by dates are on the food that's there? Do you find yourself wasting a lot of food that you don't get around to using up? Or have you ever come across the situation where you plan to use a particular ingredient for your meal tonight, but when you find it in the fridge, you also find that it has passed the use-by date? If any of these situations are familiar, and if you would like to cut out the waste and save money, this video is for you. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can organize your fridge and freezer in just 5 simple steps so that you can have a sustainable system to store your food efficiently. As a result, you can reduce unnecessary food waste. Wasting food means wasting your money, and these days that's a real challenge for everyone. Stick with me to the end of the video because I will also be sharing some tips about how to keep your food for longer without it going off. That also means saving money. I just want to emphasize that this is not a sponsored video. All the products that I use for my fridge and freezer I have bought by myself because I think they work in both locations. So I do hope they work in the same way for you too. If you are new here, my name is Wendy and I love to share easy and delicious recipes, organizing tips and tricks, DIY projects, and the different ways I have found to help you become a confident baker in a stress-free baking environment. If we can find that sweet spot together, baking is a lot more fun. Please hit that subscribe button if this sounds good to you. I would really appreciate your support. Alright, are you ready? Let's get organized. Here is my LG American fridge and freezer. I will list the model number in the descriptions below. The capacity of the fridge is 416 liters, while the freezer is 219 liters. I like this fridge very much. It has a non-plumbed water dispenser and ice maker, which allow me to get cold water and ice instantly. It's good for making drinks in summer or if I need ice for cooling my cooked veggies or noodles. I also like the look of it with its brushed stainless steel finish and handleless design. It looks pretty smart, doesn't it? Step number 1. Know your fridge and freezer. This is a very important step even before you think about organizing because you need to know how much space you have to store your food. Let's have a look at my fridge and the freezer. Both compartments are in a vertical layout from top to bottom. In the fridge, I have 4 shelves, a wine rack, 3 drawers, and 4 quite generous sized door pockets on the door as well. While in the freezer, there are 4 shelves, 2 drawers, and 2 door pockets. It's really quite spacious, but it still gets full really fast if I'm not organized. As I said before, every fridge and freezer have different layouts, such as in a French-style fridge and freezer, where the fridge compartment is above the freezer, so the way to store food will be slightly different from this American-style one. Once you understand the space that you have in both compartments, the other crucial information that you need to know is their limitations. In mine, the shelves are not movable, which doesn't have the flexibility to store some bulky or tall items if I needed to. That means the capacity of each shelf is fixed. I can't change it. So when I look for the organizers for this fixed space, I need to find something that is stackable so that I can take advantage of the space. Step number 2. What food you need to store and organize. The basic solution to efficient storage and lengthening the shelf life of your food to source durable, airtight storage boxes. This changed my life and the relationship with my fridge. Before buying any storage boxes, you first need to think about what you need to store. Different households have their own specific needs. Maybe you need to store baby food. Maybe you need to store a lot of fruit. Maybe you need to store a lot of meat or drinks, or a combination of all of these. We love cheese, so we have a special cheese drawer. If you don't really think this through, it's quite easy to buy a whole bunch of storage boxes that don't fit your needs and actually waste space as well as money and effort. I worked out that our storage needs are to store fruit such as strawberries, blueberries, mango and grapes. Limes and lemons are also on our fruit list as well. I need to store meat, a lot of eggs because of my baking, and as I mentioned, we need room for cheese. Finally, we use a lot of veggies for cooking and making salads. These are all items that will go off quickly if they are not used up or stored effectively. Although these are all normal items for most households, the balance may be different. We eat a lot of fruit, and it may be entirely different sets of fridge needs for your family. So, think first. Your freezer is your best friend if you know how to use it. It can help you save tons of time, avoiding expensive topping up of your fresh food during the week. I use it to store meat, butter. My husband is a butter monster. Frozen veggies like peas, green beans, and fries. I also make and freeze stuff for our lunch as well, like delicious homemade dumplings or my favorite turnip cake. Step number 3. Plan the excess. The main consideration in organizing the fridge and freezer is how you can easily access the different food items based on your patterns of daily usage. Is the system or layout sustainable? Can the food items be easily rotated in terms of the use by date or the ways that you store items? Are the storage boxes usable in both the fridge and freezer? Are the containers or boxes safe for your particular food items? For my fridge, there are a few things that I need to consider in terms of planning the accessibility and where to store food items. For example, I need to store the fruit on the top shelf because my husband is the one who prepares our fruit bowls every day. He's very tall and bending down to the lower drawer to find fruit is not ideal for him. I don't like food waste. Who does? It costs us money, right? So I want to arrange the food as they do in the supermarket, the closets used by date at the front. So I want a space for my meat or fish to be arranged in this way. This is a perfect shelf for them because this shelf has the most height capacity. I love drawers. I think they are the best place for my veggies. Veggies come with different packagings and they are all different shapes. Storing them in the drawers makes for easy access and instant visibility. Just pull out the drawers, you can see them all. For the freezer, I use the same principle, easy access. I will show you how I organize the food in the freezer in the step number 5. Step number 4, find the right storage boxes and containers. Alright, once you figure out what you need to store and understand the capacity and the limitations of your fridge and freezer, you can now go ahead to look for the right storage boxes or containers to suit your needs. Due to the non-movable shelf in the fridge and freezer, I need some storage boxes that are stackable so that the vertical space can be well used on each shelf. The key step is to measure each shelf carefully and precisely, so that the storage boxes won't be too big or too small. If they are too big or too crowded on one shelf, it will be a challenge to get the boxes in and out from the shelf. As a result, you will probably give up using them and blame Baker Beef for talking you into it, so measure carefully. After a lot of research, I found these boxes on Amazon. I will add the links in the descriptions below. These plastic fridge storage organizer bins with lids and drink plates are perfect for my fruits. They come as a set of 3 boxes. I ended up buying 2 sets and we use them constantly. They are stackable. The drink plate helps to keep fruits dry because moisture is the enemy of fruit. The other storage boxes that I purchased are these lock and lock plastic bacon boxes with a Freshness tray inside, which is similar to the drink plate. I bought these for my chopped spring onions and coriander. The third set of storage boxes I bought are these little round food containers. They come in a set of 6. I mainly use them to store any leftover yogurt, rice, or sauces. Although their capacity is quite small, just 4 ounces each, they are perfect for the job. For example, they take half of a carton of yogurt if I make a sauce. I also bought a set of ice cube trays. These come in a set of 4. Since I started using them in the freezer, it not only helps me reduce a lot of food waste, but also saves me a lot of time preparing the ingredients for my cooking. I will show you the secrets in the last part of this video. The last set of storage boxes that I also bought online for this project are these more shallow stackable food containers with lids. These can be used both in the fridge and the freezer, and they are so versatile in terms of their usages. Mainly, I store meat in these boxes because you don't need a deep container for this. A big shallow container is perfect and will hold meat for more than 1 meal in the fridge or frozen. If you have been following me on Instagram, I also use these boxes to store my Chinese turnip cakes. Check that video out if you haven't. This famous Chinese dim sum is so delicious. So apart from these new purchases for my project, I did have some organizers that I've been using for quite a long time that I would also like to recommend to you. First up is the egg organizer, which can store up to 21 eggs. It's perfect for storing eggs because they give protection whilst preventing the eggs from absorbing any other food smells. It's also stackable, so you can well use the space above it. As you know, I'm a baker, and when I ran my baking business in Singapore, I used to store a lot of eggs in my fridge. That's why I had 2 egg organizers. But if you don't need to store that many eggs, you can buy smaller organizers instead. As you can see, I leave an egg hole as a mark to separate the newly bought eggs from the old one. This indicates that I need to finish that section first to avoid any waste. This system works for me perfectly. I also particularly bought this 1.1 litre OXO Good Grips all-purpose dispensers container for our grated cheese years ago. I haven't bought any grated Parmesan cheese ever since because the quality and the taste of a block of Parmesan cheese you grate yourself is definitely better than buying pre-grated ones. I also have a couple of these square containers and rectangle containers for other smaller food items. I will show you how I use them to organize my food and where I place them. Step number 5. How I store the food items. You can now go ahead and plan where you want to store your food based on your daily usage and your needs. For our households, as I have already mentioned, I store the fruit on the top shelf so my lanky husband can reach it. Also, on this shelf, I store my grated cheese because my husband also has the grating duties. The second shelf is obviously the easiest access area in the fridge, so it's better to leave it as empty as you can for your leftovers or small things that you need to access on a daily basis. For us, I store the limes and lemons in a container so that they won't get lost in the big fruit drawer. Inside the container, I have a small round containers for sliced lime and lemon wedges, which makes for faster and easier access when we are making gin and tonics. White wine obviously goes in the wine rack, although we do have another small fridge for a few reserve bottles. This fridge has a shallow drawer labeled as an utility box, which I use to store our cheese supplies. It's an outstanding feature for our needs. You can't have too much cheese in our house. So that's fruit and cheese sorted. Now for the staple items like eggs, meat, and veggies. As I really like baking and cooking, it's a joy to see what ingredients I have in the fridge so that I can get inspiration on what to cook. More importantly, it helps me reduce the amount of food waste because I can see what stays in the fridge longer. I store eggs and meat on these two shelves. The main reasons are because I can see them and I can arrange them according to their use by date. This system helps me easily check them in order to reduce food waste. No finding an old box of mince which has got pushed to the back of the fridge. 2 weeks past its use by date. The next food that I need to store is veggie. I categorize them into two types. One type is making salads, while the other is for cooking. Salad veggies are things like rocket and spinach, while cooking veggies are things like broccoli, cabbage, red peppers, that sort of things. I store them in the drawers because they are easy to see, easy to find, and easy to track for condition. I unwrap all the packagings from the cooking veggies and store them in these IKEA storage bags before placing them in the drawer. These bags are double sealed so that it can keep the veggies last longer. In the bigger drawer, I will put the longer lasting produce like cabbage at the bottom, while something with a shorter shelf life like mushrooms at the top. In the smaller drawer, I place a container here for my herbs, chilies, things like that. And of course, I store my salad veggies here as well. Also, I place the packs in the drawer vertically and it helps me see them clearly. In the door pockets, because they are very deep, I can store all my sauces, condiments, and the like in the top one. So the labels are at my eye level and I can grab them easily. The taller at the back while the shorter in the front. Once again, easy access is critical. In the middle two pockets, I store the food item that we use on a daily basis. Butter spread, ground coffee, sparkling water, and milk. Just open the door or even half open it. Both me and my husband can grab things easily. In the lowest pocket, I store tonic water in a container to keep the bottles in place and some extra drinks. Now for the freezer. On the top shelf, I store the butter in a container to keep them in place. Also, they are at my lanky husband's eyes level so that he can grab it easily. Other food like frozen cookie dough and the frozen garlic cubes here for easy access again. I will show you how to make the garlic cubes in the last part of this video. The second shelf obviously is the easiest place to access, so I try my best to keep this shelf empty for extra portions of home-cooked meals or shop-bought frozen bread. Just some unexpected items here. Then this is the shelf that I keep my meat in the storage boxes. They fit perfectly on the shelf in the freezer. Using them to store the meat saves me a lot of spaces in the original packaging. I keep my frozen veggies in a basket to first keep them in place. Also, I can easily grab a bag just to pull out the basket instead of just shuffling them on the shelf. In the smaller drawer, I keep the meat which is in a pack, like sausages or frozen prawns. Just pull the drawer out, I can see them all. No more missing a small pack of sausage at the back of the freezer. Lastly, in the bottom one, my frozen homemade dumplings happily stay in this drawer because first, I have no problem to bend down to grab them, and second, it is easy to organize the packs of dumplings in the drawer. We keep the ice for the wine cooler and some ice bags in the door pockets in the freezer, and we leave the lower pockets empty for some treats, for example, ice cream. Bonus tip, how to store food to last longer and reduce food waste. Garlic in an ice dispenser. Peel and finely chop garlic in a mini chopper. Scoop the chopped garlic into an ice dispenser, filling each cube evenly. Store it in the freezer. To use, just push out one iced garlic cube when you need it. This saves a huge amount of time to peel garlic every time you need it, and it can last a lot longer compared to sitting in a basket on the countertop. No more shriveled half-used cloves of garlic attracting little black flies on your countertop. You can use this way to store the shallots as well. Chopped spring onions stored in a box and covered with kitchen paper. Cut the both ends away, then cut in half where the whites meet the greens. Wash them thoroughly, Then pat dry them using kitchen towels. Cut them in diagonal or fine slices, whatever style you like. Then store in the storage boxes, ideally one with a drink plate inside the box, just like this one, which can keep the spring onion away from excess moisture. Finally, cover them with kitchen paper. The whites and the greens will stay fresh for up to 2 weeks. Bacon strips store in between parchment paper. An open pack of bacon strips will definitely not last long in the fridge. However, I believe it is quite unlikely that we will use up the whole bag of bacon at once. Waste alert. The best way to keep bacon strips is to store them in the freezer. However, if you store the whole bag in the freezer, it is almost impossible to use them because they end up sticking together. So here is a trick that helps you get however many strips you want easily, straight from the freezer. What you need is a storage box and some parchment paper. Place the bacon strips on the parchment paper. Use a pair of scissors to cut the parchment paper according to the size of the bacon strips. Then stick them together with the parchment paper in between. Voila! Want to have 2 bacon strips for your breakfast? Easy peasy. Meat chopped into portions and store in food boxes. Defrost the portion you need the next day in the fridge overnight. So easy. I have been using this way of storing my meat for quite some time and I find it very useful. As you know, the bigger the portion of meat you buy, the cheaper it is. Here I bought a pack of 4 burgers and 500 grams of minced turkey. Let's say you will need a 250-gram portion of minced turkey or 2 burgers for each meal. Buying a 500 of it is definitely cheaper than a smaller pack. But it doesn't mean that you need to eat all that turkey meat every night. In this situation, you can divide the minced turkey into 250-gram portions and the burgers and store them separately in a box. So when you need minced turkey or the burger for your meal, you just need to take a portion from the freezer to the fridge the night before to defrost it. That's it. Well, use the freezer and the meat can keep longer. No expired meat ever. Berries and other fruit stored in storage boxes. We don't leave any fruit in its original packaging when we bring it home from the shops. Everything is decanted into airtight boxes. Some things like cut mangoes and grapes just go straight into the sealed containers. Use what you want and then reseal. Never wash grapes before you are about to eat them because they go soft very quickly if stored wet. Other fruits, like berries, can be washed and dried so they are ready to use. We do this with strawberries and blueberries. Washing in a colander, draining, and then patting dry using kitchen towels. Storing them in storage boxes with a draining plate is better to keep any residual moisture away from the berries because berries and moistures are not friends. Following this system, we have virtually cut out fruit wastage, and previously we used to lose quite a lot in unsealed containers. Worth doing. Cookie dough stored in the freezer. I have already mentioned this, but this is one of my favorite tips. Who doesn't like freshly baked cookies? However, I'm not going to bother making a batch of dough every time I feel like a cookie. My solution is to make a whole batch and sandwich the dough between 2 sheets of parchment paper. Roll it out into your desired thickness. Then I wrap the cookie dough using cling film with the parchment paper. I would suggest wrapping the dough in cling film twice to prevent it from drying out. Oven on, freshly baked cookie will be ready in 15 minutes. 1 in, 1 out policy. We both love butter. It makes everything tastier. That's why we tend to buy several blocks of butter at once and keep them in the freezer. That means we always have butter on hand and never run out. However, you can't use it straight out of the freezer, so our solution was to create a family policy that we called one in, one out. That means that there is always one reserve block in the fridge plus the block in the butter dish. As soon as we empty the butter dish, the reserve is used and then the another blocks taken out from the freezer to replace it. One in, one out. Alright, I hope you have found this video useful and helpful as you organize your fridge and freezer in a more effective way. I do all of the things that I have spoken about, and 100% I have cut out waste and saved money. I hope you can too. It takes a bit of effort to get yourself organized, but then you will really enjoy the benefits and your fridge will smell better. If you are interested in organizing, check out my baking room tour video. I also share 10 of my organizing tips to help you to create a more efficient space to enjoy baking more. I would really appreciate it if you could give me a thumbs up and share this video with your friends and family. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye bye!